Hello everyone, welcome to Mark's Day's Creative Differences, a monthly live stream where I talk to writer friends about those little things that make a big difference to their craft and careers in the hope that we can give readers some insight to their creative process and writers and other creative folk some practical advice they can actually use. I'm Mark's Day, author, screenwriter and podcaster. A big thank you as always to Dom Currie for his jingle. This month we've got an 8-bit classic. Let's hear it again. Last month, I made a big thing about how if you're joining us live, it's recording and things might stop and start, but it's worth coming because you can ask questions of me and my guest and become part of the show. Well, listening back to last month's episode with Zoe Richards, it became clear that neither of us shut up long enough for anyone to get a word in. So I'm going to try and make a greater effort this month to include you all.
Can I come in?
No.
Please?
Okay, let's meet our special guest. We have got the author of the Last War fantasy trilogy, The Witchfinder Chronicles, and he also writes the D.I. Simon Wise thrillers under the name Michael Dillon. It's only Mike Shackle. Mike, welcome to the Creative Differences podcast. How are you doing, sir? Good to see you.
I'm really good. That music was very Blake Seven, wasn't it? I was like, wow,
This is like looking into a mirror. Two middle-aged white blokes in their man caves. Look at this. We've both got bookshelves and toys. What does this say about us as men, Mike? What does this say?
I basically stopped growing up when I was about 4 or 5 years old because all the stuff I loved then of what well, maybe 7 because that's when Star Wars came out. Like it just makes me feel comfortable and everything else. But I do see your Stormtrooper, and I'm trying to remember where I left mine now.
Jeff White's here. He says the jingle has a lovely 8-bit quality. Thank you, Jeff, for that. Much appreciated. And Jeff is joining us from the Isles of Scilly, which is amazing. And his little photo there is azure blue waters. I'm sure it's not like that for the moment. But yeah, hi, Jeff. Andrea is here from Portland, Oregon. Great to see you, Andrea. Lovely to see you too. Who else we got, Emski? Sarah's here from Liverpool. Hello, Sarah. Good to see you. Good to see you.
All my favourite people.
Yes, these are all beautiful people. Laura's here from the Isle of Man. Say hello to the fairies on the ferry bridge. We have to do that when we go to the Isle of Man. Do you remember that? And we had to say hello to the fairies on the ferry bridge. I want to talk about your writing, in particular, these chunky boys. Look at this. This is The Last War. Now, we talk about epic fantasy. These are truly epic. I mean, I love these books. These, if you want a fantasy world that you just want to disappear into for several weeks, or if not months or years, check out the Last War trilogy. I've spoken to you before about this trilogy, but I also want to talk about now that it's complete.
Yeah. And
the context of where we are in the industry at the moment as well, where books like this. What is this? What are we looking at here? 700 and something pages, 770 odd pages. They're becoming a bit more difficult to publish now, aren't they? With paper costs going through the roof, that sort of thing.
Part of the trouble I've got with my latest fantasy is I've been told I've got to write it in 130,000 words.
Wow.
Which, if the average book is 80,000 words, a contemporary book, the trouble with fantasy is you have all this world building and stage setting that you have to do, and it just takes time. Paper just costs so much now that unless you are Brandon Sanderson, with guaranteed X million sales, you're just not going to get published if it's a big chunky book like that.
Well, I mean, I can tell you from a UK publisher point of view, when I worked at Orion in Gollancz, we published Brandon there. And of course, in America, they have an economy of scale there. They are printing exponentially more books than we are. And so it's still an issue, but it's less of an issue. Whereas over here, the cost per copy, and we were printing it on Bible paper. It was so thin, some of those books as well. So it's a serious issue. It really is a serious issue. And it's, I think I heard Peter McLean talking about this as well, about the fact that it may seem like a lot of words, but how do you know? So how have you approached that?
I mean, the other challenge with the Last War was originally I pitched it as a 5-book series, and they said, no, it's 3. So essentially I wrote 5 books worth of stuff and 3 books. So that's probably why each one gets bigger and bigger. Being a big part of why I haven't finished my next big fantasy is just trying to juggle things and what shortcuts you can take to cut down on the amount of time you need for world building. Do you have a much more tighter cast so you haven't got 5 or 6 different points of view going on and things like that? And I'm terrible at planning. I've been a pantser my whole life. So to sit down and try and work out sort of the building blocks without even, so the story can fit into it is a massive, massive headache.
The point of view thing is a genuine problem, which I'm experiencing at the moment, because certainly in the first, the beginning of the story, you're like, oh, let's start this and let's go off with this character. And the more of these little threads you throw out, you've got to resolve them somehow. I'm writing a third part of a trilogy at the moment. So not only are you resolving all the threads in that particular story, you really want to wrap up the entire trilogy as well. So there's a reason the final parts of these epic fantasies are so epic, isn't there?
And it's got to work as a book in itself. Looking back with Until the Last, their characters I could have pulled out, really. If someone had explained to me that it needed to be shorter. But Glance were happy accepting it and we went ahead, but really it should have been slashed a bit.
Is it a situation, and I say this because, again, having been on the other side of the fence, as it were, I have seen this happen where you're 2 or 3 books into a deal and then suddenly they're saying, actually, yeah, you've got to squish this down.
Well, they didn't tell me I had to squish it down. They've been amazing to work with. The print run of the larger size, the trade paperback, which you have, is sold out in the first 2 weeks, and then they didn't do another print run because it was so expensive. So the book was out of stock for a year till the mass market.
Then you get the call from Broken Binding Editions, and these absolutely gorgeous hardcovers with spreads. They're numbered editions. They're limited to 1,000 copies. Beautiful royal hardbacks, foil on board, all the good stuff. So can you tell us about it? Mike's a bit distracted because his dog Buddy is with us.
Yeah, my dog Buddy, who's decided to start trying to chew wires under my desk and stuff. Live shows, right. They're great. Sorry, let me just try and
bring Buddy on. Let's see Buddy. Let's have a look at Buddy.
Hold on. He's big. Hold on.
Oh, look at him,
Buddies. So Matt originally worked at a bookseller, one of Britain's biggest booksellers in Birmingham, and he loved. I'm going to put him down now. He's really big and heavy and smelly. He wrote to me saying, "Can you send me some book plates because I want to sell signed copies," which I did. And he sold so many that book chain actually then started carrying We Are the Dead as stock. The job he did on them was amazing, and Glance were amazing with the production of them all and everything. And, as an author, you dream of these moments where you get to sign your book, but to go into a warehouse and sign 3,000 copies and just see pallet after pallet stacked up, and it was just dream come true time. So, it's just, and I owe Matt a huge amount. He's a fantastic person.
Any tips for long signing sessions like that? I think Terry Pratchett used to have a pack of frozen peas to rest his wrist on.
Well, it's really funny because when I've got autographs before from writers, that sometimes when you get the squiggle, I always felt a bit cheated. Like, is that really a signature? But after signing 3,000, I was like, I wish I had a squiggle just to get through it. But the funniest thing was I got dizzy, right? It was because you're looking right to pick up a book, you sign it and you pass it off to the left, and doing that for 5 hours, you'd look up and the whole room was still moving and everything else.
I developed my signature over years of being a sales rep and signing returns notes. So mine is an art form. What I'm looking at, this is a slight spoiler for what is giving me joy later on. This is Michael Palin's diaries, and he says here, Friday, September the 10th, 2004, I have the irksome task of signing books at Orion's warehouse in Littlehampton, which is Littlehampton Book Services. As usual, and we got him to sign thousands upon thousands upon thousands of books, and they were, they'd spend the whole day there. He says, as usual, the best part of a tediously laborious day is the gossip about others. And he talks about Susanna from Trini and Susanna, swears like a trooper. Neither she or Trini sign their full names, the latter just T and a kiss. Ian Rankin they like, but he's a bit of a wild boy. At the last signing, he consumed an entire bottle of scotch with cokes. And Jan Martel, apparently, who did Life of Pi, is intense. So yeah, he did 2,100 signatures by 5:45 in a day.
This is the dream. That's what it's all about. And
Absolutely.
I will never, ever, ever complain about that privilege and luxury. I'll complain about a lot of other things, but not that.
Oh, yeah, we have. You should have been here before we start recording, folks. One of the many problems I have with you, Mike, is keeping up with you, because not only we've got these wonderful fancy books, we've got The Witchfinder Chronicles, which exclusively on mikeshackle.co.uk, and I'll put links in the show notes if you're listening back to the recording. Tell us about The Witchfinder Chronicles and what inspired you to write them.
I wrote a short story about a character from the last war, whose ending in the book I thought was really obvious, but people kept writing to me saying, what happened? So I wrote a what happened. And again, because of the time limitations and things, page limitations, I thought, well, if I set it in Elizabethan England, then I don't have to do so much world building, because everyone has an idea, whether it's just frilly collars or whatever it is, but they'll have an idea of that. And then I wanted to write a story about someone who hunts monsters, because of the time period, making him a Witchfinder general seemed apt and things like that. And then I wrote this story about this man going into London and hating being there because of all the pee and poo being thrown out windows and stuff like that. I loved it, but then I thought it's not right for the anthology, because it was all about consequences, and there weren't any consequences in this. And to be honest, I was probably going through I can't write for crap phase anyway. When I got over that, I was like, I really like this character and I want to do more with him. And then I thought, well, why don't I just write every month? I write a short story, I publish it on my website. If people want to buy it, it will at least pay for my website fees every month. And it was a great way of me getting back into fancy and loving fancy again. And the rules I set were all the monsters had to be from British mythology. They're taking longer and longer to write because I'm getting more into the looking up stuff and things. But there are 3 episodes out now. The 4th is coming out on the 1st of December, hopefully. And then the idea is that once all 12 episodes are finished, I'm going to publish a special edition hardcover, like a box set. And I'm doing all the artwork and the covers and things like that as well. So it's a real labour of love for me at the moment.
For the moment, exclusively available on mikeshackle.co.uk. Okay, well, again, we'll put a link in the show notes. If you want to know more about the Law of Consequences, listeners, go back to episode 1, my interview with Steve Gowland, SC Gowland. We talk about it there at some length as well. And I'm just amazed this all came out because you wrote something for it that was completely wrong.
Yeah!
Peter, how are you doing that?
I don't know, Lois. I'm scared.
I want to talk about your cover art. You've been started doing cover art, and there's some examples coming out here which are absolutely gorgeous. If you're listening to the podcast, is that a squeaky toy?
Yeah, my dog is now eating a squeaky toy. He's got fed up. He's obviously realised I'm now not going to... I am a professional. I'm sorry. It's like...
No. Better the squeaky toy than chewing through your cables. Yeah. I think we can all agree.
Well, seriously, this is the point of the day. He normally goes to the dog park, so he's obviously really pissed off with me.
People are getting very distracted by the dog, but that's fine.
I'm really sorry about that.
No apology necessary. Gavin, I'm absolutely here for the dog content. Can Buddy come back next month as well?
He's such a lovely dog, he really is. But he's actually got his back to me now. That's how mad he is.
Oh dear, you've upset him now.
What were we talking about? Art. Excellent.
Sorry, yes, art.
Yes,
art. Let's talk about your art. I'm loving your art here, Mike. Tell us what's this? Because you used to do little cartoons online. I remember that. Yeah. I remember loving those, and they often featured your daughter in them as well.
That's a character from Miles Cameron's book series, Artifact Space, which everyone should read because they're amazing. I've always drawn. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a comic book artist, but I didn't think people like me did things like that. And when writing stopped being my kind of creative outlet and became a career, I started drawing again, and I've done more and more of it. And I do a lot of kids' drawings of my family. And then I started drawing pen and ink, and then recently I've been trying to teach myself how to do it with digital Photoshop and things like that. And it's just a great creative outlet for me. And I do all my own covers anyway, but then a few other people have started asking me if I could do some for them. So I've just done Jeremy Zell's self-published book cover, which was great. It's about spaceships blowing planets up. I've just done one for Stephen Orion, and I'm working on one for Sebastian de Castell at the moment.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
I got into an argument which one should never do on Twitter. No, was someone had posted about, AI art, and they said if you're a self-published author, for the sake of saving $1,000, don't use AI art, and we'll blacklist you and ban you. And it went on this sort of tirade. And my comment was, you can't say for the sake of saving $1,000, because $1,000 is a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
Right. And when you self-publish, you have to make all these decisions on what can I afford to spend, and am I going to make it back? And basically, you have to work out what you can afford to lose, because there's not any guarantee of doing it. So to throw out $1,000 like that as it's nothing, it just annoyed me. But I then got attacked for being a supporter of AI, and I'm like, I'm not. I'm totally against that. I'm just against people, making light of financial realities, right?
What is social media if not for telling us what we're doing wrong, eh?
I regretted getting involved the moment I said anything. But then I thought, well, I love doing these covers. I think they're okay. And if anyone wants to hire me to do their cover for them, the rates are very good.
I like money.
Let's talk for a while about some bloke called Michael Dillon, who writes these D.I. Simon Wise books. This is very, very different stuff. So how did this come about?
After I'd come out of writing the Last War trilogy, and I kind of needed a break from fantasy, my other great love were detective books. So I thought I'd try writing one. And I used that as the inspiration, for want of a better word, but built a story which became the book Rich Men, Dead Men. I then started thinking about who the detective would be. And I have a friend called Simon Wise.
Right.
And I always thought it was a great name, for a detective.
No one sued you yet?
No, I've asked, but he just got upset that I'd made him a policeman. Actually, I probably should have told you, in book 2, there's a serial killer, and one of his victims was Mark Stay. He left me a note going, do you think this will be distracting? And I said, but no one really knows who he is.
It's a good way to check if anyone's read the book as well, because, they'll be straight on to you.
There's a huge part of what we do where how do we support ourselves as creatives in this world? And as fantastic as a traditional deal is, you get signed for a certain amount of money that gets then split up over, get a bit when you sign the book, when another bit when you deliver a book, and then when they finally print the mass paperback, you get paid. So what becomes a lot of money becomes little amounts spread over a long period. The audio books are done by my favourite narrator, a guy called Colin Mace, who is just incredible. And this is where I'm very lucky, because someone said to me, are you going to do audiobooks? And I said, oh, well, when I can afford to, but only if I can get someone as good as Colin Mace to read them. And then about 2 weeks later, I got an email from Colin Mace saying, I really like your book. Do you want to do an audio book? And I wrote back and I'm like, are you the Colin Mace? And it's amazing. And it's he makes them so good. I love listening to my own stories when he reads them. I noticed Jeff White said, did you find it hard to pivot to a new genre? I worked with a lady called Rebecca Miller, who's an editor. And she's amazing. And I hired her to go do a developmental edit for me. And it was the most detailed feedback I've had from anyone about anything I've done. It was 10 pages of like the most insightful notes. I then went away and worked on it again, and everything good about it I owe to her for She pulled me up on all the cliches, and she was just so detailed in a really great way.
What's the word count on these compared to the fantasy novels?
The first book was 100,000. The next two are about 83, 84,000. And then the fourth book's a bit longer. I think it just comes in at just under 100. But I can write them in 2 or 3 months. You can write about people having a cup of coffee and a discussion without explaining what coffee is and, what the coins are that they pay with. And
Jeff has got that very question here. Do you find you can write story in a contemporary setting more quickly than one in a fantasy setting with all the world building fantasy requires? Yes.
And again, with the internet now, and there was someone on a Facebook group who was writing a thriller, and they're driven around London. Who was it? Chapman, Mark Chapman? No?
He shot John Lennon.
No. All right. Anyway, there was someone who put this video of driving around London doing this chase route that they're writing about, and it looked great. But I literally just go, right, I need to get from.
It's Chapman. Andrew Chapman.
Mark
Andrew
Chapman. It's not
Mark
him.
Chapman.
He didn't do it. But I literally put, I need to get from here to here, and I look it up on Google Maps, and you can describe the journey. And you can see the buildings, and you're not sitting there going, right, well, what kind of building would be here? And so it is a much easier, and it's a lot of fun. It really is.
Excellent. And Andrew's actually here.
Is he?
He was one of the people who corrected us on his name.
Andrew Chapman. My name is Andrew Chapman. You are a genius, Andrew. I forget my wife's name sometimes. It's not like...
What? How very dare you?
Let's get on to our regular questions, which we ask all our guests. Yeah. First one is, what's the small thing that has made a big difference to your creative process?
What I put down here was friendship, and it's the friendship of other writers that has made a massive difference to me, because there's so much of Start Barking, I think, is giving me this really yeah, there you go.
Yay!
So much of what we do is lonely, and it's us and a keyboard. And you can talk to normal people about what you do, and they just roll their eyes and think you're insane. But other writers obviously understand, and we all share the same conundrums and things like that. And I meet up with Sebastian de Castel and Ben Galley, who both live in Vancouver, and we meet up once or twice a month. The goodness it does for my soul is incredible. I mean, I just come away inspired, feeling privileged that I've got them for friends, and we've discussed everything from swords through to, I don't know what else, but people on other tables around the restaurant do give us these weird kind of looks,
What's the thing that makes you think you're ready to start writing on a project?
I have lists of ideas that I want to write that go back years. I write a Witchfinder, I've then write a Michael Dillon book, write another Witchfinder. I should be writing a fantasy for the next couple of months. It's like a little production line, but I have all these notebooks everywhere with different things that I'm working on, just so I can keep the ideas straight in my head. With the books that I write, my ambitions and what I want to write, they push me on, and they're the devil on my back, but they're also the cheerleader saying, you can do it.
That's your illustration.
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's the character. And this is what I wrote on the top. So this is my ambition. I've got to do it in 30,000 words. Bigger than Dune, bigger than Red Rising. So that's the benchmark I set for myself. My kind of pitch for it is it's Batman with swords and magic.
Sold.
And it's set in a French Revolutionary world.
But you set yourself a little mission statement.
Always, yeah.
Is that something you come back to in those dark days where it's not working for you?
That's tea and chocolate I come back to in those days. No,
How do you know when you're done?
Deadlines. Basically, every time I release a book, I it's like giving myself a pay rise each month of $1,500, right? So that's a big pay rise each time over a year and things like that. So if I was being really cynical about my career, I would just be writing the next detective book and putting it out there. I had a discussion with Sebastian and Costello, actually, because he was talking about when do we know we're going to retire? But the money I like and I need to live on, but I have to make the stuff. I have to tell these stories, even if it was just me doing it. And that desire to do that has only got greater as the years have gone on, and I'll probably end up in a loony bin, dribbling in a corner, talking about Simon Wise and everything else. But
reserve me a space, will you? How do you remember that idea that you have at 3 a.m?
Well, it's really funny. When I fall asleep, I actually think about what I'm writing as I fall asleep. And I find it a really good way to focus the monkeys in my brain so I can fall asleep. But I can work out little problems. And I think I always remember those. And if I don't, I've forgotten them, and I don't care anyway because I can't remember. But if I'm up at 3 a.m., that's because I haven't slept and I'm now wandering the house. Nothing good happens at 3 a.m.
What's the biggest mistake you've ever made in your writing career?
Before I signed for We Are the Dead, I self-published some fantasy books I'd written under the name Mike Morris, and they were selling incredibly well. And at the time, I thought I was a genius, but really it was pure luck. If I'd been sensible then, I would have made sure that I'd release more books in those series to keep that audience, because when I went back after finishing the We Are the Dead books, which was like 4 years later, I'd lost completely the audience for those. And there's been nothing that I tried that I've been able to get those back. When I launched the Simon Wise books, I uploaded the uncorrected, unproofread copy to Amazon. But I'm human, right? And I'm a creative, so I'm going to screw up.
What's the best happy accident of your writing career?
Well, and this is the obvious one is obviously listening to you interview Joe Abercrombie all those years ago when I was going to give up writing, right? And in an alternative world, there's a Mike Shackle walking around grumbling about the book that he never wrote and wishing he'd done all this stuff. So that was always amazing. And then like every time I write, there's a happy accident because I don't really plan stuff. I know roughly what's going to happen. So my characters always surprise me, and I'm really happy to really drop them in it and then work out how I'm going to solve that problem afterwards, right? I mean, it's just, I love writing when it feels like the magic has taken over and you're just transcribing stuff that's happening rather than being this kind of theatre director telling people what to do.
Finally, is there a character or story swirling around in your mind that you want to write that you're not ready to write yet?
It's not that I'm not ready to write them. It's just I need to get them to the point in the schedule where I can write them. But I have an idea for a Ocean's 11 meets Aliens sci-fi heist movie. There's a post-apocalyptic Viking story that I want to write.
Yeah, this is the trouble. It's not the shortage of ideas, is it? It's the hours in the day.
And we all get it. Some comes up to you, here's your writer, and they go, "Oh, I've got a great story. We should write it together." And what they mean is, can you write it for me? And it's like, dude, like the ideas aren't the problem, right? This is, and a lot of the illustrations I do is to these ideas exist in my brain and go, look, I know you're there and I'm making you exist in a little way, but please be patient with me.
Is We Are the Dead a George Orwell reference?
There's a very famous poem about World War I called In Flanders Fields, and in which is all about we are the dead who, and I'll massacre it if I try and read it, but we once saw sunshine, fall on our faces and stuff like that, and we've now handed over the torch to you to go and die, basically. And it's a beautiful poem, but the line "We are the dead" is from that.
What's bringing you joy at the moment? This can be books, movies, TV shows, music, games, whatever makes you happy when you're not writing.
So I wrote a list here. I put Tetley tea. Makes me happy. Chocolate.
Did you say chocolate?
The new Primal Scream album, I think, is fab. John Gwynn's latest book, The Fury of the Gods, is amazing.
Right.
Finishes off one of the best fantasy trilogies I've read in forever. And I've watched the first episode of Dare the Jackal. I thought it was amazing, but it's only just started here in Canada. So whenever I talk to my dad now, I'm gonna have to like, no spoilers. Like he is like the biggest spoiler. You know, you ring him and go, "How are you?" And he goes, "I can't believe they got killed." And you're like, "What? No, wait." So literally, I have to start off every conversation with, "I've only watched one episode. Don't ruin it." You know. Well, when you get to episode 3,
Brilliant.
you know, I spend a lot of time looking for things that make me happy, and whether it's walking with a dog, and you know, watching the sea roll in and things like that. Finding joy in the world is very important.
Quick run through of what's giving me joy this month. And first, and perhaps foremost, is Nautilus on Amazon Prime.
This is going to be such fun.
Full disclosure here. This was based on my idea. I wrote a 23-page treatment about 8-9 years ago now. I didn't write in the show, boo, but it was picked up by Disney and filmed in Queensland, yay! Then it was dropped by Disney, boo. But now it's the producers rallied and it's premiered on Amazon Prime in the UK and went straight to #1. And it is a ton of fun. And it's on Stan in Australia now. I'm not sure about the rest of the world. It's coming to AMC in the USA, I think, this year. So I'm not exactly sure when, but that's been bringing me a lot of joy. I've been enjoying that a lot. I mentioned this earlier, the Palin Diaries, 1999 to 2009. Now, another bit of full disclosure, these cover the Orion years when I sold these books, and I was lucky enough to meet him a few times, which he spectacularly fails to mention. But just to prove, there's a picture of me and Michael. There we go. That was taken at the Criterion Theatre for an event on the 5th of December 2009. So let's have a look in the diary.
Why are you doing the serial killer face? What is going on there, Mark?
That is my meeting my heroes face. That's what that face is. That is me. I can't believe me, Michael. But I was thinking that was 5th of December because it's embedded in the photo. It's taken with an iPhone. And I look at his diary and it jumps from December the 1st to December the 7th, 2009. Completely blocked me out. What I love about these books is it takes place before social media, before smartphones were everywhere. There's even a bit where he complains about keeping up with emails. It covers 9/11, the 7/7 bombings, the 2008 financial crisis, all experienced through his perspective. It's a really, really good read, so I really enjoyed it. So Michael Palin, Around the World in 80 Stays. I'm not sure there are that many of us, but yeah, perhaps, yeah, that's it. I'll pitch it to him when I next see him. In terms of music, I'm really enjoying Bobby Dazzle, which is the brainchild of Sean Greenaway, who's a singer and flautist from Birmingham. And this album is 70s rock inspired by Sweet, Slade, T-Rex. It is joyful and catchy. If you listen to only one track, make it Back to the City. You're singing along by the second chorus, so do treat yourself. So that's what's bringing me joy. Mike, thank you for being such a wonderful guest. Thanks to Buddy for being a wonderful sidekick as well. I'd ask what's next from you, but I suspect that might take another half an hour just to wrap things up. But what's in the immediate future from you?
I have to finish the latest Witchfinder Chronicles, and I've been procrastinating. I'm then finishing off the fantasy, and then it's book 5 of Simon Wise.
We'll join our regularly scheduled program after these messages.
Twice a month, I run live sessions on Zoom where you can ask me questions about the craft of writing, your working process, the business of publishing. Sessions are fun, informal and chatty. I thought each one would run for about half an hour. They've all been about an hour long so far. You can send me questions in advance. They're recorded live, saved on Ko-fi for exclusive access to Green Room supporters. There's no long-term commitment. You can pop in or out of it as you want. Green Room membership is £20 a month. And my goal is just to be able to give, all you supporters and writers advice. It's going to make a real difference to your writing career. The way I see it, having worked in this industry as a salesperson, bookseller, and author for over 30 years, I've made every mistake, so you don't have to. Although from talking to Mike, he's invented a few mistakes himself. And as always, you can pre-order The Corn Bride. There's a beautiful cover there. It's coming in March, available from all good retailers. If you want a signed paperback, pop over to the Woodville Village Bookshop and you can get signed copies there. And I got books you can buy from all good bookstores, or if you want signed stuff, you can come straight to me as well. Come to the Village Bookstore there. So brilliant. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode of Creative Differences. And a big thanks, as always, to Emily for production assistance. Thank you, Emily. Woo! Thanks and advice to Kai for the edit and to Dominic Currie for the jingle. Thanks to my special guest, Mike Shackle, and to everyone who's joined us live tonight. Next month's special guest, GB Ralph, on Monday, 9th of December, 2024, 8 p.m. GMT. GB Ralph is a Kiwi author of cozy mysteries and romantic comedies. His writing features chaotic yet lovable characters getting into trouble, an astonishing amount of crime, and handsome men falling for each other. He's currently documenting the increasingly implausible series of murders sweeping an enchanting small New Zealand town in the Milverton Mysteries, once described as Agatha Christie, but make it gay. I hope you can join us live. It'll be the last live stream of the year, and things might get festive, which basically means I might wear a Santa hat. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, things like ratings, reviews, likes, shares, these all help massively with those algorithms out there. Mike, let's welcome Mike back. Lovely to talk to you, as always. Yeah, I mean, let's... Gavin's here. He's here. Time to dust off my Santa suit. What have I done? Okay, but Mike, it's been an absolute joy. Hope to speak to you again real soon.
Thanks so much.
And until next time, happy writing and being a bit different. And who wants to hear the jingle one last time?
Me.